You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It is your host, Brian Fullerton, here hanging with you guys, and good morning. Well, guys, super excited about having another great guest for you guys lined up on the show. We've just been crunching it lately with having so many great people joining us here, and nonetheless, we have Western Snow Plows joining in with us on line one. So we got Doug Clark. Hey, how you doing this morning, brother?
Hey, I am doing quite well, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing good. We're off to the races this week. It's about 40 degrees. The guys are doing some leaf cleanups. I'm doing a crap load of office work today, and it's busy, brother. We're in that awkward transition between leaves and waiting for the white gold to start flying. So that's where I'm at. How about you, brother?
We are well into the season. As you know, Buffalo got pounded. We are starting to ship out parts and accessories and things like that, and we're continuing to ship whole goods and products. This is sort of our busy time of the year. For a good chunk of the year, we know what's going on because we're selling to dealers for their materials, and then come October, November, and December, a little bit of January, it's just shove stuff out the door as fast as possible.
Sure. I would imagine you guys kind of spend 6-7 months getting ready for your 4-month window, 5-month season. Is that right?
Well, yeah, that's actually a great question. So we have a great dealer network, and they have a good notion about how much stuff various people in their areas need. Mm-hmm. So we have a concept we call preseason. They order ahead of time. So all during the summer months, we make material for them as based on their preseason orders, right? And then we ship it to them. They have the inventory on the floor to fill the needs for end users like yourself. And then during the season itself, that's when the plows break and hydraulic hoses go, and
sure.
And cutting edges get a big ding in them because somebody went and hit a pothole or something like that.
Sure.
And we tend to ship a lot of parts and accessories during the active season. And then there are the occasional oh God, I need another plow setups. Those can happen as well, or activity is faster than the dealer expected to see, and therefore they're doing some reorders. We always have that happen every year as well. So the season itself is an exciting mix of parts as well as some plows or hoppers going out the door during the actual snow flying time.
Well, sure, absolutely. Well, and then also you've got your last minute people as well, like you were alluding to. You got your people that are like, hey, I'm going to jump into the snow business, or like you said, they hit something or something breaks, or something's catastrophic, or something's just old, they want to replace it. So it's a little bit of all of the above, I would imagine. So it's a busy time of the year, brother. We actually had a little like 1.5-inch, 2-inch kind of snow squall kind of clipped through about 2 weeks ago. That was late November, but nonetheless, it's been pretty quiet since then. And then looking at the 10-day, pretty quiet and pretty chill as well, which is I'm grateful. It's a little unusual, but at the same point, I always say, like, we still get the same amount of snow typically every year. Now it's just going to, consolidate into just January and February, where we're probably going to get sucker punched. So,
don't go to sleep on winter, because winter is not going to go to sleep on you.
No. And that's the thing. Like, it always consolidates. Like, sometimes we don't get a spring up here in Michigan, but then we get 50-degree temps in November. And so it's always like, I don't know, the season or Mother Nature itself, like, just seems to balance things out. And I'm okay with that. But right now we're just actually behind the scenes getting ready for the holidays with the family. We're just getting our ducks in a row. The guys are enjoying a little bit of time off, which honestly is much needed. We've been grinding the last 8 weeks. It's been a very busy time of the year. Just there's so much going on. I call it the fall rush, which sometimes it feels like it's more overwhelming than the spring rush, because you're doing lawn, leaves, snow, a little bit of everything, and just trying to throw the holidays in there, with people needing time off and vacations, rightfully so. So it's busy. But guys, here's what I want to do today. On the podcast, we've got Doug joining us from Western. I don't want to take any more time kind of ad-libbing or filibustering, if you will, from my end. I want to make sure that we get into the meat of it, the thick of it. I really do want to say a quick thank you to you, Doug, and then Jeff back at the mothership. You guys are actually part of the Fall Winter Shop Tour series, which is where this whole...
Excellent.
Yeah, which is where this whole relationship came together. So you guys are able to help us bring the content to these guys that are getting started in snow and ice and people that want to see the larger companies out there. We've been able to tour Atlas Outdoors and Glacier Snow and Ice Management, Sauer Snow and Ice, Troy Clog, and so many more to come. So I just want to say, I know it's all hype and all, there's always ads and promotions and commercials and all that stuff. And it's kind of a necessary evil, but at the same point, I do want to say just genuinely thank you to you guys for putting some dollars behind it to help me buy plane tickets and take time off of the business to actually go film these videos. We were in West Fargo, North Dakota, and I flew to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Like, dude, a month out trip to Philly is like an $800 plane ticket, just so you guys know. It's wild. And same thing with Fargo. Because it's a little bit smaller airport, there's not too much happening there over in that little area. So these little regional airports, it's $1,000 to buy a plane ticket, 6 weeks out. So long story short, just a lot of words to say thank you to you, Doug, and the Western team. Just tell them that we super appreciate that, and everybody listening in, we really appreciate what you guys are doing for the community.
Yeah, we sure do, and it's very important to us that we continue to bring in more folks into the business. First of all, we like the business, but second, we know there's a learning curve, and guys like you really help guys out there get into it, and then who knows who the next Troy Clog or Winter Service is going to wind up being.
Amen. Yeah, amen. And I'll tell you that, a lot of the kids listening, I call them kids, but they're 16, 18, 20, 24. These guys, I'm telling you, they are hungry. They are devouring the content. They keep bugging me. Hey, when's the next shop tour? When's the next shop tour? I'm like, every week on Mondays for 6 weeks. We got you guys. So, with that being said, let's do this really quick. We do got to pay the bills around here, keep the lights on. Nothing's cheap. Podcast mixer, the production, just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It all adds up. So we're going to hear from today's show sponsors and announcements. And then before you guys know it, we're going to come right on back and hear a little bit more from Doug over here from Western Plows, talking about to us all about the product line, the latest and greatest, all the new things that they have going on. There's a lot to cover here in a short amount of time. So let's do this really quick. Let's kick it over to the best producer in the biz, Marty, Mr. Producer, and then we're going to come right on back.
Oh, God. I'm going to have to shovel. I don't even have a snowblower. Nobody to plow me. Oh, my God, and the neighbors suck. They don't help. Oh, my God, what am I going to do?
Do you want to keep the cash flowing this winter? Head over to L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com and check out all of Brian Fullerton's new courses and powerful resources to get you cashing in on that white gold through plowing snow. The Snow Plowing Training Course is easy to understand, and you'll learn what it takes to do the job effectively and how to bid, price, and estimate snow plowing for both residential and commercial properties. L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com has 3 new resources to take the hassle and guesswork out of securing your snow removal jobs, plus there's eye-catching marketing materials that can help you secure new clients quickly. Ready to crush the snow game this year? Visit L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com or use the link in the podcast description.
All right, guys. Well, let's jump right back into it. Doug, I'm going right back to you, my friend. We're not going to waste any time. Before you jump into, all the latest and greatest with Western and all the exciting things that you guys got coming out, I don't want to gloss over the fact, what do you do there? What's your story, brother? How long have you been working with Western? What's your background in the snow and ice business? And what do you do for Western today?
That's an excellent question. So I've been here a bit over 11 years. I am what's called a product manager, and what that is I help spec out and design and learn about the need for new products, right? So as you said, we've got some latest and greatest stuff coming out. I also maintain and look over the health of the product line, and in my case, that product line is snow control products, and here at Western, we define that as basically plows. If it moves snow and it's on the front of a pickup truck, I do that.
Okay.
I have some colleagues here that do spreaders, ice, throw stuff off the back of the truck. We call that ice control. And then plows and spreaders that are on non-truck equipment like skid steers, wheel loaders, tractors, UTVs, stand-on mowers, things like that. That's an entirely separate product manager for non-truck. So what I do is the stuff for trucks, But I am familiar with the entire line of products that are coming out, so I can certainly talk to any one of them. But what I do primarily is the things on trucks.
Okay, cool. No, absolutely. And by the way, getting familiar with the product line, I'm glad we got the right guy on the phone for the right conversation, because I'm getting more and more familiar with the Western product line myself. I actually, shout out to my friend Troy Clogg. A lot of you guys have heard his name mentioned a lot the last couple of weeks on the show, and for good reason. Troy, I mean, where do you start? But he came to LAL, our live event in November, absolutely rocked it out of the house, talked about the dream, talked about the why do you do what you do, and just building a great company and a great culture. A lot of you guys know Troy pours into the community big time. He's a big snow guy. He's the biggest quote unquote fish that I have access to, talking about snow plowing, commercial snow plowing, and at a huge level. I mean, we're talking 8 figures plus. One thing that Troy has a ton of, and we highlighted this in one of the shop tour videos that we did with Troy, was the fact that all of his plows are Western. I mean, I would lose count, Doug, if we tried to count them all, but I know he has 300 or 400 trucks and service providers, but they have hundreds of wideouts. They have dozens and dozens of the MVP3s, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so let's do this really quick. Let's get folks up to speed, myself as well. Talk to me a little bit, broadly speaking, about the Western product line. So you guys make commercial plows, you have residential plows, but give me the gamut. What do we have going on? And if you want to highlight each one, that'd be really educational for us.
That's excellent. So people may have seen ads or even just got done hearing an ad with a tagline that said something along the lines of "more jobs done faster." And what we mean by that is, if you have the right tool for the job you're doing, you get through it very quickly. If you're trying to hammer a nail with the butt end of a screwdriver, it takes forever, right? But at the end of the day, if you have the right tool for the job, you get the job done very quickly. So the philosophy of our entire product line is there are a number of different jobs that guys that do snow control or snow and ice control use at any given moment for a situation. And if they have the right tool at the time, they get the job done more rapidly. Why is that important? Well, if you get your job done in half the time, you can have twice as many customers. Twice as many customers means twice as much revenue. So the faster you can get done, the more people you can serve, the more business you can get, and the bigger you can grow with a given piece of equipment. So it's very important to our customers that we provide them with stuff that is as efficient as possible and makes them a good amount of money in the process, right? So you just hit on two of our three categories of plows, right? And I categorize plows as there are V plows that go into V, scoop, and you can use them in straight blades. We have what we call winged plows, which are like the wideouts that you talked about. And then we have straight blade plows. And each of them have their point in the ecosystem, right? So V plows are really, really good for breaking open holes, but they're also, I like to think of them as the Swiss Army knife of the plows, right? So if you only have one plow, you probably need to make it a V plow, because you can open up a hole in the snow, you can windrow snow, you can pick up those windrows and carry them with the V and scoop position. So because you can use it in V, straight, or scoop, you can, in fact, use the V plow for just about anything.
Sure.
If I get done telling you this, you're like, well, why bother having anything else? Well, the thing is, it's the Swiss Army knife, right? It can do everything, but it can't do some of the things as well as a dedicated plow would.
Mm-hmm.
The winged plows, like the wideouts, or we also have a plow called the Prodigy that's it's the wideout's little brother. It uses a mechanical linkage to get into typical wing configurations as opposed to the wideout, which lets you use your wings any way you want to, right? You can have them in, them out, and them forward, them back. You can basically do anything. With the Prodigy, it's one of three pre-positioned setups: windrow left, windrow right, or scoop.
Okay.
When you have a wideout, you have a machine that can narrow itself down to go through a bank lane, because you can pull the wings all the way in and angle the thing, and it gets well under 7 feet. You can do a bank lane, then you can expand out, pick up that snow, and carry it off to the stacking area. You can even angle it around obstacles and not lose much in the way of snow, because the wings, the things that scoop, are independently controlled from the left and right angling of the plow. So you carry this thing around obstacles. Let's just imagine with a whiteout, you go through the bank lane, you open it up, you carry it out, you carry it around to like a car that's in your way, and then you take it to the stacking area. And you've done that in one step where you might have had to do it in 3 steps before.
Right.
So it's very efficient. But because it carries so much snow, you can literally, if the snow is deep, you need like a V-plow to cut a hole just so you get a starter. That's sort of the general principle there, right? So whiteouts and V-plows are great instruments. And if you have just whiteouts and V-plows and experienced operators, like Troy does, for example, or like many of your guys are in fact experienced, they can control the plows themselves. If in the hands of experienced operators, that would really genuinely be all you need, right? Because their plows are excellent, but they require some skill to operate. Now, we all know out there in snowplow land, not everybody is equal in terms of skill levels. And as a result, particularly when you get to some really large guys, you find sometimes that they just they have a guy that can just handle up, down, left, and right, and therefore that's where the straight blades come in, right? They're big, robust blades. They're dead simple to operate. And we keep them because we know that there are some people out there that simply need the simplest possible, easiest to operate setup.
Would that be the Pro Plus line that I see on the website, the Pro and the Pro Plus?
Yeah, that's exactly those. Those are, and they are, I don't want to say bulletproof because somebody out there would shoot at them. But they are very robust. They're very hard to damage, and they're very easy to operate. Right? It's just left, right, and up and down. So, you hand those out over to less experienced operators.
Well, so I was just going to chime in really quick. I see those all the time. Those and then the standard MVP Plus, not the MVP 3, but I see those like sold at car dealerships, right, all over the place. Around here by us, I don't know if it's just the dealer network or you guys just have a great lock on our market over here in Metro Detroit, Michigan. But any Ford dealer, any Chevy dealer within the Metro Detroit area, they all come pre-equipped. Well, it's an option obviously, but they, it's a standard F250 XL, maybe an XLT, but they have the contractor grade Westerns on there, and the truck's $45,000, the plow's another $6,000 to $9,000, whatever it is, and you can, and whether you're a hotel company that needs to manage 4 or 5 sites, or you're a, I don't know, so there's some tech company and you got 4 or 5 campuses. A lot of people, both contractors and then also just the business owners buy these. There's a KFC right down the road, and I know that same white XL 250 with the Western plow goes from site to site to site, clearing out all that franchisees, KFCs, right? So it's a very turnkey system for those guys.
Yeah, and you raise an excellent point, right? Which is, I've been talking to contractors right now, right? To you and guys out there that are going to try and make money at this. But there is a sizable section of what we call plow for private, right? It's the guy, he owns the business, but he also has a plow to plow his gas station or his little commercial park or whatever. And he doesn't, something that gets that job done 30% faster is sort of overkill, right? Because he doesn't have 80 accounts that he has to hit during the course of the storm, maybe 2 or 3 times. He just has to take care of himself. And it's a simple machine to operate. And candidly, like everything else on the planet, the more complex it is, if it breaks, it's more expensive to fix. Now, we have a very, very good break rate. I mean, we have better than world-class quality on our machines. But, if you hit something hard enough, something's going to break. And as a result, a lot of guys that are plow for private do like to have those simpler blades.
Well, and that's something too that I was going to mention is that the chain lift system. I've got a lot of people that when I was shopping for plows, it's actually overwhelming, to look at all the different brands, all the different plows, all the different pros and cons and features and benefits. I remember, from 2015, 16, 17, I was just devouring as much content as I could on YouTube. And Stanley did a bunch of videos with you guys with Western. There's a couple videos he did that didn't go great. And and then you guys address those over the next 24 months. And it's just, you give it to the dirt monkey, he's going to bash it up, and that's just stick, right? And shout out to Stan. But it's wild to see all the different product line, all the different pros and cons, all the features and benefits. So if you guys want to check out a bunch of great content, punch it into YouTube. There's great guys from Stanley all the way to just somebody who, puts up their phone and they're, plowing out their 200-foot long driveway, whatever. But then of course you can check out the Western website. Doug, I think one of the two plows that we're talking about right here are really the gold standard for you guys, but I would just say snow plows in general. And I'm not trying to hype it up. I'm just telling straight up fact. Like, this is what you guys are known for, and this is what I see a majority of is the wide out, and then also the MVP 3 Plus. And those are the two plows that I seem to see, or the MVP 3. Those are the two plows that I seem to see the most of out and about. So is that what you guys are known for? Is that your guys' bread and butter? I mean, those seem to be the two gold standard plows for Western.
Yes, absolutely. You're entirely correct. The MVP3 is a good, robust, versatile V-plow. It's got flared wings. It's 31 inches at the center. It's 36 to 39 inches high at the corners, depending on the width, right? It comes in two flavors, 8.5. Well, it comes in three, effectively. 8.5, 9.5, and then there's a big brother MVP3, a 10.5 foot. That is actually, it's 35 inches in the center, and I want to say over 40 at the edges. I'd have to look it up.
That's crazy. You should just dub that
for class 4, 5, and 6 trucks.
Well, right? I was going to say you should just dub the third one, the big one, the Buffalo plow. Buffalo, New York. So they got 5 feet of snow. The Buffalo edition.
Exactly. they need it. Those plows are absolutely the gold standard of moving a lot of snow. All right, and then you have the whiteout, which is that's your fleet plow. Again, as I sort of said, you have the Swiss Army knife plow that also does this one thing that you have to have it for, which is cut open a hole. But like your if you have a fleet and you want to do as much as possible, particularly in your area in Michigan, where you get sometimes like over in Grand Rapids and those areas, you get some lake effect.
Sure.
But then you also get, just everyday snowfalls. You're going to want a V plow or two out at 10, your hypothetical 10. You're going to want a V plow or two so that you can cut open sites. You probably want a second one just for backup, even if it's not out, just in case the plow goes down. You cannot inventory, you cannot back up. When it's snowing, you have to plow, and therefore you might want backup.
Sure.
So you have a couple of those guys, and they're cutting open. And then everything else is whiteouts because you can move a ton of snow that way and you can get a lot of business done. So what you find is that those two are really the big snow mover plows out there that we have. Now, everything else that we have is sort of, everything else we have is sort of some component of that, right? The straight blades function like a whiteout or a V plow in straight. The Prodigy functions like a whiteout, but has limited wing articulation for less experienced operators. The MVP Plus is simply a smaller brother of the MVP 3 without the flared wing, so it doesn't carry quite as much snow.
Okay.
But basically, you're looking at you're correct. In your region where people are serious about their snow, the MVP 3 and the whiteout are sort of the best, most efficient snow movers.
Let me ask you this, because you've been working with contractors for 11 plus years. You've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of contractors and tens of thousands of plows sold or whatever. So let me ask you this: if somebody is going to build that fleet and they want to go with the Western brand, they've got good dealer support. Where would you suggest people start with? Let's say they're going all in. Whether they finance or buy, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole other time. But whether they're going from one truck, then they're going to have two trucks and maybe three trucks, smaller company, do it, $500,000 in revenue. But they got, 6 to 8 guys and they want to get 2 or 3 trucks moving, a couple guys shoveling. How would you suggest somebody, maybe they're getting started in snow plowing, build that fleet? Where do they start? And then let's round out 3 or so trucks. What have you seen most people put together?
All right, so those are excellent questions. All right, so one truck I think I've sort of made it clear. You want a V plow. If you only have one plow, you need a V plow.
Okay.
Right, and your guys get familiar with complicated controls, and you're adding a second and a third truck. For a 3-truck fleet for maximum efficiency, I want to grow as big as I can before I have to add a 4th truck. I would have one MVP3, 2 wideouts, all right, and on at least one of the wideouts. I might even actually make it on the V plow now that I think about it, because that's more your utility infielder at that point. So on the truck with a V plow, you might put the biggest hopper you can put into that truck, right? If it's an 8-foot bed, you probably want to get like a 2-yard or a 2.5-yard hopper. Reason you want to put a hopper on there is because ice control is where these guys really start to make their money.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
That's where usually ice control is done on time and materials, whereas plows can be either per push or seasonal. But the ice control stuff is what really gets it all the way down, right? So, and the nice thing about a spreader is that it can hit more items. So roughly every 3 to 4 trucks, you need a spreader. Sometimes I've seen guys that have them every truck, and that's fine. But typically we see about 4 times as many plows as spreaders sold. And that's because if you just think about it, your typical plow width is about 8 feet. Your typical spreading width is 40 feet. And you don't have to be a math genius to figure out, 8 goes into 45 times, but then there's like a little bit of fudge factor there. So yeah, you probably need about one spreader per 4 plows, right? So you get yourself that set up. You might throw a couple of tailgates on the back of the 2 wideout trucks just to have sort of spot cleaning.
Okay.
But you definitely, at that point, if you have a three plow fleet, you need at least one hopper, probably one, and then a V plow and 2 wideouts. And then if you really need to, you can throw some tailgates on the whiteout trucks.
I like that. I think that's what I would suggest, but I wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth, if you will. So, because it makes sense. You got to cut open the lane. You got to have the plow, and of course the MVP peak is, of course, move its own fair share amount of snow. There's no doubt about it. That can do acre plus hour production rates, no problem. You guys listening in? We did a podcast about 6 weeks ago. I gave away the farm about everything we could do to help you guys price snow. We have snow contracts, pricing. It was everything. I just gave away the farm. We saw a training program on it, but at the same point, I just gave it all away for free. Just, listen to the thing, get a pen and paper out, take some notes. But a V plow, 100%. That's what I would suggest the way to start. And then I liked what you said too. Like, if you have the whiteout or a whiteout, with the wings and whatnot, then that is moving crazy amounts of snow. I'd have to, I'm not sure if you know production numbers offhand, but I would imagine at 10 feet, you got to be moving acre and a half on a regular 3 to 4 inch snowstorm. I mean, do you have production rates or production numbers? Not to get all nerdy, but I think it'd be helpful to know.
That is still variable by region, Brian. That what we instead did was we took and figured out, we created what we called an efficiency calculator, and it's based on if with a straight blade,
right,
you take 1 hour to do a piece of business, then with a whiteout, you're going to take probably about 36 minutes.
Yep. Okay.
And that's because every one of you out there has a totally unique setup and a totally unique need. And in many cases, there's like literal microclimate effects that means that the guy 20 miles down the road is facing an entirely different regime.
Oh, yeah.
In like Pennsylvania and some of those areas, you can get like a lot of that.
Well, I just was going to chime in. It's so true because I can't post anything without my friends over in Buffalo saying that would never hold up in Buffalo or this was ever whatever in Buffalo. And shout out to my shout out to all my Buffalo listeners, which is probably 2 of them. But it's just funny because like you can't post anything on social without anybody saying something, and it's all with love. But it's just I just got done going over to Sowers Snow and Ice, and they're in the Mid-Atlantic region, and they get wet snow, slush snow, ice bombs they call it, like wild conditions over that way. And so I agree. So but more like you said, I get more jobs done faster. That's the name of the game. With the Western line, and of course as you go up the product line. Really quick, I didn't want to gloss over this. 2 things, because we probably got about 2-3 minutes here and we can kind of wind it down, because I really appreciate all the insight you're giving to these guys. It's really, really helpful. And it's just, it's just nice to if you guys are in the market, listen to something for 20, 30 minutes, get the lay of the land of the product. I mean, I can't tell you guys how many catalogs I've went through. I'm the catalog guy. I love going through catalogs. I've looked at everybody's catalogs. I'm the one that's got the whole swag bag, full dug, from a conference or a Quip Expo, all that mess. So I appreciate you educating these guys in on the lineup. We covered over this for a quick second, but for those guys that have that are getting into salt management, and then also the guys that are getting into the bigger stuff, you guys have push boxes and whatnot. Can you talk about the tornadoes and then also the salt or the push boxes, because I think that is really helpful stuff, and some people have larger businesses. So yeah.
So we just came out with some new push box this year. The pile driver now has floating edges, all right? And this is super important because the larger the bite you're taking out, the more uneven the surface you're working on is, right? Okay, so this has a articulating cutting edge in 2-foot segments that can go up, down, they can tilt, they can trip, they can do all kinds of things. The principle here is that when you are taking a 10 or 12-foot bite out of snow, the odds that the surface on the leftmost 2 feet and the rightmost 2 feet are the same is somewhere between 0 and none.
Right.
So
I agree.
You want your edge to be able to float a little bit, right? So we've set it up so that the edges can float within the box in order to get you the cleanest possible scrape. And again, this is important. For a reason I'll discuss in a second, but that's brand new this year. This is the pile driver pusher. It's going to have what we call terrain response advanced cutting edge, and that's that floating edge I'm talking about.
Okay.
Sometimes we call it the trace.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's a great system. It comes with a number of springs. It's easy to work on just one segment as opposed to the whole thing. Say like you break one edge or you bust one spring, you can fix it without having to get into the whole thing. So that's great. And it fits on skid steers, tractors, and compact wheel loaders, and to a certain extent wheel loaders. The 12-foot will go on a wheel loader. Those are all, you use non-truck equipment, and that, by the way, is getting to be more attractive to folks because, a skid steer or a tractor, you can't drive it between sites, so you lose that flexibility, but it has a tremendous amount of grunt. It can move a lot of snow. That's why you put a push box in front of it.
Yeah,
so that's our new product this year.
Well, I was going to say, I've seen a lot of guys with a lot of different equipment out there with this whole tour, and a lot of guys are using loaders, man. It's and whether you rent them or buy them, or you just have a 4 or 5 month, loan on those that you guys are renting them for, above my pay grade for the kind of sites that we're doing. But I've seen a lot of guys, Corey Ballard is a friend of mine and his company Perfect Cut out of Des Moines, Iowa. They rarely use any plow trucks. They have a couple, but it's all loaders and pushers. And I'm like, that's interesting. And dude, the amount of snow that those things move, it's insane. I implore you guys so much. I think one of the gems of this tour so far has been Glacier Snow and Ice. They had, I think 60 pieces of equipment and 60 different pushers that they had out there for their fleet. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to see the iron and the steel that these guys are putting on the ground. And by the way, shout out to whoever came out with the name Pile Driver. I just think that's a cool name. Like,
thank you.
I'm not, whoever did that, they get the gold star for the week. You know what I'm saying? So
that was me. That was actually me. We're part of the naming conventions, and for me, with Western in particular, I make sure that every plow gets a name. It doesn't just get a set of letters.
Sure,
that's a point of pride for me.
I love it. Well, the pile driver, it just sounds cool because like you're pile drive, and then also like you're driving the piles. Like it's kind of you're right. When we came up with that, and I was like pile driver, and I'm like, no, I'm keeping that one. That's awesome. I love it. Hopefully some 18-year-old kid didn't own piledriver.com, and then you have to buy it off him for $1 million. You know how that stuff goes.
We tend to proactively register sites.
Smart. I love it.
So that actually leads me to the next part, right? So that you've gone through your Pro Plus or your MVP3 or your Whiteout or your pile driver with trace, right? And you've got the snow down to mostly black but there's streaks of white. It just happens. The surfaces are uneven.
Right.
So now, in order to get it all the way down to black pavement, you've plowed to get most of it out of the way, but there's still some white left because, again, you got divots, you got places, you got uneven surfaces. So you want to go all the way, and that's where you need to do the salting, and that's where something like a tornado comes in, because at that point, what you do is you come in and you throw some salt down, and it doesn't take a lot. It takes about 700 pounds of salt per acre to thoroughly clean off the surface. Now, property managers will frequently insist on more because if they don't hear their feet crunching, they think nothing's happening. But really, it's about 700 pounds per acre is sufficient to clear off and make completely clean a surface within a very short period of time. So you come in with your hopper, and the reason I say hopper instead of tailgate is that for route management, the more sites you can hit with your hopper before you have to go back to your central salt point is sort of your constraining operational factor, right? That becomes your constant, it's like fuel states, right? You absolutely have to be mindful of, do I have enough salt left in the hopper to hit this next site? If not, I got to go reload, right? And that might mean a 20-minute drive, which is really annoying in the middle of a snowfall. But then that means, and that's why I say get the biggest possible hopper your truck can handle for your main hopper or hoppers, right? Because then you can hit as many sites as possible without having to go back and reload.
I love it.
Which is your number one concern.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So then the question becomes, how wide do you spread it? Well, that becomes an issue of, as a maintenance guy, you are on the hook for dead bushes. You want to have You may want for every site to have a different setting on the hopper in terms of how much you throw and how wide you throw it. We had a guy call us from a place in Chicago that wanted us to keep his operators from changing the settings on the spinner so that it wouldn't throw any wider because he was tired of paying for bushes to be replaced. And we were like, that's an interesting, well, have you tried breaking the knobs off? I mean, there's not a lot that can be done, but you want to throw about 700 pounds, and anything past that and anything in the grass or in the bushes is wasted. So you want to be, one of the arts of this particular business is to know what settings on the site that you need to use for ice. The reason ice control is lucrative is because, one, you can do a lot more with the equipment because you can throw faster than you can plow. Two, everybody pretty much has the equivalent of a per push. Most contractors run a time and materials on the de-icing rather than a seasonal contract or a per push contract. Although occasionally they will do sort of an all-in service. Mm-hmm. I don't recommend it because salt prices can fluctuate wildly.
Yep.
And availability can
commodity. Yep.
Wildly.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, you don't want to you want to be as efficient as possible with this stuff, and salt. Dirty little secret, I'm sure it comes as a surprise to you and everybody else out there, is incredibly corrosive. So everybody, the minute you start operating a spreader, everything around you starts to break a little bit, up to and including the spreader itself. So you want to be sure that you maintain it and clean it thoroughly, but you also don't want to throw more salt than you need to, because ultimately that's going to lead to upset customers one way or another.
Sure. Well, the one thing that I wanted to ask you with the Tornado line is a lot of guys are throwing them in their F250s or F350s or 3/4 tons, 1 tons. Even if you have the larger sites, and you could probably get away with a Home Depot, with some of the larger Tornadoes, but by then you might have some of like the big salt management, salters and whatnot. So let me ask you this: what is the more popular size Tornadoes? Is there a couple different sizes, and then what are people picking up and using out there in their fleets?
It's a great question. All right, so I'm going to tell you right now the 1.8 and 2 yard, the Tornado and the Striker are the most popular. Around 2 cubic yards is the most popular. It's it's sort of like the utility infielder of spreaders. Mm-hmm, okay. Mm-hmm. You made a good point, which is if you've got a big lot like a Home Depot, or like we have a area here that's like Costco, Home Depot, and a bunch of other stuff, and there's just acres and acres of asphalt. what you find then is you get a guy that's got they're generally run by larger businesses, and they take either their dump bodies or a Class 6 truck and flatbed, and they put a spreader up on that, and they have like 6-yard spreaders, 5-6-yard spreaders that they use for that, because that's how much material that place needs on the regular. But for a good mid-sized contractor that needs versatility, but also needs to be able to put it on a truck without the truck going down the road at a 45-degree angle because the back end is overloaded, that 2-yard hopper is really the sweet spot for just about anybody. We have a 1.5-yard hopper that's shorter for a short bed truck.
Okay.
And then we have a 0.7-yard hopper that's in stainless steel that is for like really short bed trucks, like your 5-foot beds. They can't handle much of anything.
Would that be a UTV salt spreader as well, or do you have a whole different lineup for the salt spreaders for the UTVs?
We actually have a whole different lineup for UTVs. We have a 0.3-yard hopper that's almost tailgate sized in terms of capacity, but it's about a 3-foot. It fits into like your typical Polaris or Gator bed.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Because I didn't want to gloss over that either, because I know a lot of guys manage malls and municipalities and condo complexes, and there's many people I've seen with the tailgate spreader on the ATVs or the hopper style like you're talking about. So those don't sleep on those. I know for you guys listening in, a lot of you guys that are managing those sites. You don't always get access to a piece of equipment that's a stand-on machine that has a salt spreader attached to it. Sometimes you might have to round back up with having a UTV on site, and that's totally typical.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And in that case, we do have a drop spreader for exactly that reason. So you can drive your UTV down and run a drop spreader as well, because sometimes for those in particular, you tend to be, you don't want much except some bounce to be causing it to go out. So
right.
Again, the concept here obviously is the right tool for the job. And what you need to do, particularly with ice management out there, guys, is be really, really mindful of the fact that salt goes everywhere you don't want it to. And you need to be really thoughtful about your settings when you're around stuff that might be sensitive to salt burn.
I love it. Great tip. Absolutely. And also make sure you guys have in your contracts, like ours do, that plants getting burned is not covered by us. So, and I just say that only because I have a sweet spot in my heart for the engineers that design all these fast food businesses and all the islands, Doug, that are part of any commercial parking lot. It's just like, did you have to add 18 different islands? Or my favorite, and I love Chick-fil-A, but if you ever go through a Chick-fil-A, the whole rounded out section as you go through the drive-through, it's all mulch beds and plant material. And I'm like, where do you think the snow is going? Where do you think the salt is going? Like, it's not your salt spreader, God bless it, but it's probably not going to do a 7 or 8 foot lane. It could. I'm sure you got some great settings, but nonetheless,
really pushing it with a thing. You've all but turned the spinner off at that point, and it any weight on that spinner will stop it and stall it out. So you're exactly right. That can be real fun. Those lanes.
That's when your spreader breaks, because nobody's ever had that happen, and then you just use gravity and 30 miles an hour, right? So.
Yep. And count on bounce. Take care of your job for you. Yeah.
That's right. But in which way? I've heard some crazy stories that you guys do out there, and I love it. So, well, Doug, that's kind of the. We don't really have a formal list here, but I was just going through a couple of notes that I did have. I really appreciate you weighing in and helping these guys learn more about the Western line and everything that you guys have to offer. Anything, just kind of open mic. Anything that I missed, or anything you do want to share? Anything where people can get more information, of course. If you want to plug all that, that'd be awesome.
Sure. So a couple of key resources for you guys from us is, www.westernplows.com, right? So you get the full impact of the entire line, all the products we've got, everything we've discussed here and more, items for non-truck equipment, items for tractors, items for skid steers, items for UTVs, items for regular pickup trucks. We also have, and I highly encourage people to use this because we are very careful about this. And because, I have a child that goes out on the roads, and I'm sure many of you have children that go off on the roads if you're beyond a certain age. We have what we call a match system. And what that does is it makes sure that the plow and the equipment you've put on the truck is safe to put on the truck. And I also want to put a very brief plea in, because I've been doing this at trade shows for a while now. Just because it doesn't break the frame doesn't mean it's safe, right?
Sure.
When you put extra weight, particularly on the front of a truck, you affect its handling characteristics and its braking characteristics. And what we do is we set up our match system very carefully to make sure that any weight you put on your truck and any counterweight you put on your truck it stays within the gross vehicle weight rating of your truck, and it does not get outside the safety margin that the Detroit engineers built into the truck's controls and braking and steering systems. I've seen people put the wrong thing on, and they're like, what's the harm? And 99 times out of 100, there is no harm, but that 100th time can be really tragic. So I guess
that's
public
great.
Service announcement,
Yeah.
mindful of the legality of the truck, because there's a reason the plow you want isn't listed for the truck you're looking at.
Right.
It's probably because it's not safe.
Well, I was just going to add really quick, because I am a big safety guy on our show. We try to be as conservative as possible on our content and just doing the right thing all the time. Because, like you said, you never know. A, you never know who's looking, but B, that 1 out of 100 times it could be catastrophic and tragic. One thing that we've all seen, guys, out there is somebody putting a plow on a half ton that might not be lined up correctly. We've seen people overload their salt spreaders, and they're ripping out of the storage yard at 3 a.m. from the salt supplier, and you just see the salt billowing off the back end, and it's just creating a crazy mess. Don't take it for granted when you guys start adding material into your dump beds, your dump boxes, your dump inserts, your dump trucks, that things can shift, things can move. You go down a hill that you've went down 500 times before during the summer, but it's 3 inches of snow, and there's ice on the ground underneath that snow, and you got an extra 1,500 pounds, 2,000 pounds plus worth of salt in the back. That changes everything. I don't care how, and I've had my buddy Mike Bedell tell me this to me as well. He had a F550 dump truck. He said, "Dude, I don't care how heavy that truck weighs. Everything turns like into figure skating. Doesn't matter. Snow tire, you know what I mean? Extra weight, snow tires. I mean, can you want to add in? I'm sure you guys got some crazy stories like that."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So 2 things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 things. When you need to be mindful of the fact that stopping is going to be more than you expect, and we have had accidents in the past where equipment was not secured down properly. For example, a guy hit something with a spreader in the back, and the spreader came up into the cab to see what he was up to.
Jeez,
because he had not sit down effectively.
Yeah, we don't want those stories repeated.
You're working with big, heavy equipment. This is like agriculture, all right? The stuff will turn around and bite you if you aren't doing it right. So the number one thing I'd say, do it right, and then get out there and make money, because when people need snow removed, they need it removed. This is a good business to be in. And if you are a strong, ethical, hardworking person that makes sure that they take care of their equipment and they take care of their people, you will find yourself in a very, very good business for a very great length of time. The people who have been in this business frequently have been in this forever, and they're in it because it's important to all of this country that we be able to get. I need to be able to get my 6-pack of beer in the middle of a blizzard, damn it. And you guys out there are making sure that happens.
Well, I call them my breadstick people, my Olive Garden breadstick people. And I love Olive Garden. I love my breadsticks, but I swear, like, Miss Grandma Matilda, at 2 o'clock on a Sunday, she's got to go get her Olive Garden carryout, and it's 7 inches of snow, and she's like, "Well, my car's all-wheel drive," and I'm like, "Lady, I love you, but please just DoorDash it, or don't, just make spaghetti at home that day, okay?" But it's just shocking to me, Doug. I have a whole nother rant I always talk about on my content. I say, when the Pilgrims came and the Mayflower and all that mess, and 200 people got off the boat, and the first winter, 2/3 of them got wiped out. And it's was it disease? Was it birds? Was it the food? Was it building shelters? I don't really know. I just think that these are the same people, fast forward 220 years, that want to go to Olive Garden breadsticks, and it's just, I don't know. Humans are interesting, but nonetheless, just having some fun here in jest, but just, be safe out there, guys. Be safe, be smart. These plows weigh 800 pounds, 1,000 pounds, whatever, 500 pounds. Like you come up on the back end of some Honda Civic that's stuck at the light. Folks, we all know what's going to happen. Okay. Like you're not going to lose, but you are going to lose, if that makes sense. So just be smart, be conscientious. I know it seems like we're all bulletproof driving in these F-250s or 2500s, and it's 3:00 in the morning, and red lights. It looked like it was stopping to me. It was a brake, flashing red to me, officer. Like I get it. People are doing crazy things. Just be smart, be safe. Like keep your lights on. Just keep your head on a swivel. One last thing, Doug, and now if you don't mind, I just wanted to say a big shout out and thank you to go full circle to what you, the rest of the Western team, and even the greater mothership, Douglas Dynamics. I just want to say a big thank you to you guys for everything you're doing with Troy, with the Hot Pink Helpers. Just a little plug there for those guys. I remember 2 years ago, Troy was doing this raffle. He's like, hey, we're trying to get the word out. Would you mind shooting a video with me and for me? And I said, dude, my platform is your platform. Whatever you need, whatever I can do to help a friend. Any which way, we bought a couple tickets. Swear to God, long story short, we actually won the raffle for the Plow. It was an MVP 3 stainless. I actually didn't have a second truck at that time. So I'm like, I don't know what to do with this thing. Long story short, and by the way, there was no funny business. I had a lot of people just give me a bunch of crap like, oh, that's convenient that you won. And Troy didn't even pick the winner. His daughter picked the people out of the fishbowl, because you guys, we try to put all these like checks and balances in, like, you know what I mean? Nobody's trying to do any end runs on the back end. But it was just funny. But any which way, I even said, well, okay, I don't really have an immediate use for this plow. I'm going to gift it. So we actually, shout out to my boy, Zach Wildy. A lot of you guys know Zach. We actually gifted that plow to him, and he's been, I think, 5 or 10% off the top of his gross revenue that he's doing for snow plowing. He's giving it back to local families affected by breast cancer, because that affects his family, from what I understand, as well. So number one, just want to say thank you to you guys for partnering up with Troy. I know he doesn't need any attaboys. I know you guys don't need any attaboys, but it is worth mentioning, like, it's really cool partnering up with companies and brands and people that want to give back and pour into the community, not out of obligation, but just out of abundance. And again, you guys sponsored another plow this year. I know of the gentleman that won, but it wasn't anybody that is like an immediate listener to our content. I know the guy in the area that won local to me. But I think this year, the whole Hot Pink team generated $160,000 in cash to give away to local families, which is Troy Clogg's charity, and that he helped pioneer. So I know Douglas Dynamics is a huge part of that. I know Jeff came up from the Douglas team to come support, and a bunch of other great guys. So honestly, just a little plug there for Troy, for Western and Douglas. You guys are awesome. Any thoughts on that? But I just want to say a big thank you to you guys.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And yes, one of our principles is to give back to the community. In fact, the breast cancer isn't the only one. We also do a Veterans Day one. There's a military-themed plow.
Oh, okay.
And the proceeds for that go to it's a charity here in Wisconsin, but it's called Camp Hometown Heroes. It's for the children of dead or disabled vets to go and have a summer experience.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And that is the stuff that, it's not like that's a talking point on our list. All right, guys. Like, that's the kind of stuff that nobody wants to like publicly talk about, other than like do the event, but I just want to like acknowledge that kind of stuff. It takes a lot of time and an effort to coordinate things like that, and the impact that it's going to make, it doesn't go unnoticed. You know what I mean? So, shout out to you guys for.
Yeah, and that's to Jeff. That is absolutely a shout out to Jeff Kopp. He is the one that runs all of that. He does all of that outreach. He is absolutely the maestro of that. It's his thing.
Well, I love it. Well, when we reached out to Jeff, and he said, love to get behind, he didn't even ask a bunch of, questions. He did a little due diligence. He's like, what are you guys doing? A little this, a little that. But it wasn't a hard sell. He said, love to get on board. He goes, if this is helping the next young guy out, pay it forward, and to help you guys create content. He's like, we'd love to be a part of it. And so, as you guys are listening in, one thing I love to do anytime a company, I don't think they're necessary evil. I call them partners. I feel like to give those guys the opportunity to just have a dedicated podcast episode, just to educate a little bit, maybe give you guys some tips and some tricks. And Doug got tapped on the shoulder, or maybe this was thrown on his desk, one or the other, right, Doug? And so
asked, and I said absolutely. I'm the one most likely to be available for an interview. But keep going.
Yeah, no, but I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your busy busy morning. We're recording this on a weekday during the afternoon. I know you got a lot of obligations and a lot of responsibilities. So I never want to take it for granted that somebody of your guys' caliber takes time to be on our show. We're not anything special. So I just want to say, like, thank you to taking an hour out of your busy day to put this on your radar and to pour back into our community as well. But that being said, that's all I got, brother. Anything else you want to end with? But if not, we'll button it up.
You're very welcome, and I think we've covered all things Western. And again, if somebody needs to, please feel free to reach out to Jeff at our social media site, and he is not shy about getting things to me.
I love it.
And I even like hearing some occasionally good stories.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. Right? That's how we all get better. So.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Awesome.
All right, hey, Brian, you have a great Christmas. Everybody out there, have a great Christmas. Stay safe and let the white gold fly.
Amen to that. All right, guys. Well, cool deal. Well, guys, we'll button up right here. Thanks again to Doug for taking time to be on the podcast, and Western Plows and Douglas Dynamics. And again, thank you to those guys for sponsoring the Fall Winter Shop Tour series, which, by the way, you guys can check those out every Monday for the last 6 weeks on YouTube, and then also the correlating podcast on the podcast, Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast. So that being said, guys, let's kick it back over to Marty, Mr. Producer, to wrap this things up, and we will catch up with you guys here on the next one.
The Lawntrepreneur Academy is your online destination for learning how to grow a successful lawn and landscaping company.
Hi, this is Scott from New Jersey. I just want to say that Brian puts out some great content. Definitely has helped me grow my lawn and landscape business. Just finished my 4th or 5th coaching call with Brian, and every time I get off a call, I'm definitely ready to go out there and crush it. I also just recently purchased the whole ball of wax from Lawntrepreneur Academy. Loving all the content. Brian's definitely out there looking out for our best interest and trying to help us grow a bigger and better business.
The link is in the show description. Make your business as successful as possible with training and resources from the Lawntrepreneur Academy.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
This has been a Brian Fullerton and Mr. Producer production.